awkward when you see yourself on multiple screens.
I don't like listening to myself, period. So.
And then there's a delay. There's a delay from me and you over to the YouTube. I don't know how to fix that. That's going to be. Try it this way.
No, well.
Mark, I found if you mute the YouTube, that you don't get the feed. You don't get the repeat of what you said previously.
Okay, I don't have YouTube open, Jeff.
Oh, so. Okay. So you don't have to worry about it.
Nope.
Good. Just going to start to welcome everyone to the webinar. Attendees are starting to stream in, so we're going to give it another minute or so here until we make sure we have everyone who wants to participate in the Q&A. So we'll be back to you in just a few moments. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Lancaster Farmland Trust's webinar series on food and farmland in Lancaster County titled Digging In. We're excited to have you here and want to extend our appreciation for your interest in the topic that we have today, which is farm to shelf. It's my pleasure to introduce Mark Souter, who is the president and CEO of Souter's Eggs, who you saw on the video. and he's here with us this afternoon for a Q&A. So we'll probably have a few more folks that are joining. If you have a question that you would like to ask, please just populate it in the chat box, which should be off to the right-hand side of your screen in YouTube, and we'll take questions from there. Also, just a reminder that this is both the pre-recorded webinar and this live Q&A video will be available on our YouTube after this session, and that links will be emailed to all the attendees, or you can also search it on our YouTube channel as well. So with that, certainly if you're tuning in and you have questions that you would like to ask, feel free to do that. I know from myself personally, and I know Mark, well, his involvement with Lancaster Farmland Trust and Souders Egg supporter of our efforts here throughout Lancaster County and protecting our farmland. And obviously over the past year, COVID has been a big factor for everyone. And Mark, just wanted to start out, with you taking a little bit of time, just talking about how COVID has impacted Souders Eggs and how COVID may have impacted some of the farmers that you work with.
Okay. Well, COVID has actually had a surprising impact on our industry. When there's probably about 15% of our total US supply that goes to restaurants, hotels, colleges, universities, big meeting venues, those types of places. And that volume went away almost immediately. So it has impacted farmers here locally in that the price of our commodity, the price of eggs, has been fairly low, below the cost of production the whole way through COVID. So from that standpoint, that's how the farmers have been affected. In our processing facilities, it's really a matter of doing everything we can to try and keep people safe. We can't keep people 6 feet apart based on our facilities and what we're doing. So it's setting up temporary barriers, wearing masks, sanitizing everything multiple times per shift, fogging the facilities on the weekends to make sure that we don't have any residual virus in the air, et cetera, contact tracing, all those types of things, which have definitely affected our workforce. No question.
Yeah, it's certainly a challenging time for a lot of employers and across a lot of different industries and sectors, locally and globally, for that matter. So we did have a question that came through here, Mark, and the question is does Souders audit their suppliers, meaning your farmers? The person asked that that you mentioned auditing themselves, but what auditing does Souders do related to the farmers that supply?
So we use a third-party company to do an annual audit for us. That's from an animal welfare standpoint, and we have set guidelines that we use that come from a separate entity. So whether it's United Egg Producers for our commodity eggs, or whether it's Humane Farm Animal Care, which sets up guidelines for our cage-free. So we're audited to those standards at least once a year on the farm using a third-party auditor to verify we're doing what we're supposed to do. But we're also inspected by the state. Pennsylvania Department of Ag comes in and does swabbing on the farms. So yes, the farms are audited, and farmers don't really like paperwork, but we're making them do more and more of it these days.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't think any of us like paperwork when it comes to it. So
yeah, no question.
I want to thank Melissa for that question. Certainly, those who are watching, feel free to enter any questions that you have in the chat box that's off to the right there. So, Mark, the Earl Martin farm, was one example that we saw of a farm that, supplies eggs to Souders. Would you classify that farm as sort of the average producer for Souders eggs?
On the cage-free side, the specialty side of the business, absolutely. That's very common. The farm, the barn layout, the equipment that's used is very similar to what we're doing in the majority of our locations on the specialty side. Commodity farms are a little bit different. They tend to be a little bit bigger. When I say commodity, I'm referring to caged, your white eggs that you buy on the shelf that don't have any call outs to them. So those farms are typically a little bit bigger, but on the cage-free side, that's a very typical farm, Earl Martin's farm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great, great. Another question that came through is you referenced the term of consumer driven, and can you explain more about that? You know, how it, what it means to you, and how that affects Souders and your suppliers.
So consumers have definitely changed their behaviors over the last decade or so, and it seems to be accelerating. There's much more of an interest in where food comes from, not just what it costs, but what it maybe costs socially or morally, versus just the dollar numbers. So we're seeing definitely continued growth in people interested in that side. So we've tried to match that up by being as transparent as we can. We have pictures of our farmers on our website. Every dozen of eggs we sell has a code on it that you can go and see which farm it came from, see the farm itself, see the farmers if they're willing to let us take their pictures. Some of them are not, but you know, if not, we take pictures of the farm and give general descriptions of what they do. And you know, we're definitely seeing growth in that side of the business, no question, the specialty side. And also on the convenience side, more and more people are paying attention to what they eat from a health standpoint. Eggs obviously fit very well into that. And we're seeing our hard-boiled egg business grow very rapidly right now because people have the interest of eating healthy. It's something they can pick up at the grocery store that's already ready to go, throw it on a salad, take one with them for a snack, or pick up two of them at a local convenience store, a Sheetz or a Turkey Hill, etc. So those are really the consumer-driven sides of our business at the moment.
Yeah, I know. Personally, you know, I have two small kids, and especially my son usually is having a hard-boiled egg every morning, especially if he's running late for the bus. It's a quick grab and go, you know, to get out the door, and great protein, you know, gets him started off well for the day.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for being a customer.
Yeah, absolutely. Another question that we have here, Mark, is, and this one's from Becky. How many farms grow for Souders? And then how do those partnerships typically form? And what resources does Souders provide for its farmers? Infrastructure, technical assistance, you know, anything along those lines?
So we have about 100 farms that produce for us. Now, those farms are spread across 3 states because we do have locations in Maryland and Ohio as well. But the majority of them are in Pennsylvania. Those relationships are typically formed by someone that already produces for us will give us as a reference to somebody that would like to get into the business or is interested in putting a chicken house on their farm. So that's kind of how those relationships start for the most part. But from a duration standpoint, we really do have the same farmers for a very, very long time. A number of our farms are on the second and third generation of farmers that are selling their product to us. On the support side, it really depends. Some farmers really want to be truly independent and want to manage their own birds, and we simply set up an agreement to buy the eggs from them, other than setting the standards they must be audited to and verifying those standards. And other farmers, we do actually provide the service or field service work. So we'll send Souder employees out to the farms, checking on the birds, making sure they're getting the right rations, adjusting nutrition, adjusting lighting, making sure body weights are all where they should be, all that type of stuff. So it's really up to the farmer on how much risk they want to take on themselves versus how much they'd like us to support them. And we're open to all different formats of that.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, great. Thanks, Mark. Another question, and you might get this question often, you know, folks know you're in the egg business, but a question from Emily is, how common are double yolks and how does that happen?
Double yolks are not very common, and it is basically comes from young birds who are just starting out in their maturation process, and it's akin to twins. So the bird is basically placing 2 yolks inside the same shell. And it really only happens with young birds. Their bodies haven't quite figured out how to do everything yet. And so that's when that happens. From a percentage standpoint, I don't know the percentage of double yolks, but it's a very small percentage.
And Mark, I know in the video, you referenced sort of the geographic area that you supply to, Maine to Florida out to Illinois. Do you ever see Souders expanding beyond sort of that footprint? Do you think there's opportunities there, or do you think there's obviously limitations that might be factors?
Eggs are definitely very regional. They're very heavy. They're mostly water, and so it's very difficult to ship eggs long distances and be profitable doing that. At least shell eggs. So from a region standpoint, I don't see us expanding very much on that side. We are expanding nationally on our hard cooked product. However, that product is something that we can send through other logistic warehouses and other networks. So that's something that is expanding, and we are actually nationwide with that product as we speak. So
that's great. I wasn't aware of that. So another question that we have here, Mark, is do your farmers exclusively produce eggs, or do they have some other maybe livestock that they might have on the farm? What's your general experience?
Most of them do more than one thing. So whether it's row cropping, whether it's growing produce for Stouffer's, I've got a local farmer that grows a lot of produce for Stouffer's. Also has a chicken barn on his farm. I have farmers that have cattle and chickens. You name it. Farmers are very resourceful and are always looking for multiple streams of income from their farm. So I would say the vast majority have at least one, if not two, other agricultural crops or process that they're running on their farm.
Yeah, we see that very commonly in our work, out preserving farmland, but it's likely there's multiple sources of income in play there in terms of the particular operation that's generating the revenue for that farm.
Absolutely.
And I think it just speaks to the challenges in the agricultural economy that to remain profitable, and having that diversification to sustain that operation based on whether there's the potential impact of avian flu as an example, and how that might impact in comparison to what the beef market is doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And farmers are used to that risk and not afraid of it, but they definitely tend to have more than one income stream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Another question that we have here, Mark, is, and this one is from Becky as well. What challenges do you encounter working with farmers from the Plainset community as opposed to quote English farmers? And how do you navigate that with them?
Well, I'd say the biggest challenge is probably in making sure that the housing works, because we do need fans and air movement to take care of the birds and make sure we have the best environment possible. And so that's probably the biggest challenge is limiting the use of electricity and or designing the barns with them to make sure that we get the best performance out of the birds without having extensive use of fans on the farm. So I'd say that's probably the biggest difference. Other than that, I find that most farmers are pretty much the same way. You have an honest conversation, you talk about what you're going to do, you agree to that's what you're going to do, and everybody moves forward and does what they're supposed to do. It's actually really nice to work with people who have that integrity, and if you shake their hand and they say they're going to do it, they're going to do it. And that's something that's rare in this world of contracts and legal issues. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I certainly think it's one of the unique characteristics of Lancaster County, especially farmers in Lancaster County, that salt of the earth, very honest, upfront, if they say they're going to do something, they're going to do it.
Yep, absolutely.
Another question that we have here, Mark, is how much should consumers rely on the expiration date on egg cartons?
Well, that depends on if you know how the eggs were handled from the time they left the chicken house until you got them. Expiration dates are really there because there's always some level of abuse through the supply chain. So, whether it's sitting on a dock a little longer than it should, or whether, the stock person didn't do it right away. They took the eggs out to the dairy case and then got sidetracked, and they sat there for an hour before they put them into the dairy case. Those types of things. So, I mean, if you know it's been refrigerated the whole way through, they definitely last longer than the expiration date. But just to be on the safe side, it's better to get a new dozen. They're not very expensive. They're really good for you. So it really probably better off not chancing it.
Right, exactly. So, Mark, I think we've all experienced over the years, particular, diet trends that focus heavily on eggs, and then it's, let's not focus on eggs because they're not healthy and those sort of things. I mean, moving forward in the next, 10, 15 years, what do you think are the greatest opportunities that are available to the egg market?
Well, I think research is coming around and showing people that while eggs do have cholesterol, there's far less cholesterol in eggs today than there used to be, and that comes from how we manage the diets of the chickens. But also, modern science is telling us that cholesterol is not solely sourced from your food. A lot of cholesterol concerns come from genetics, and so people are coming back to eggs and realizing that all of the vitamins and minerals that an egg contains are all vital for our bodies. And so I think it's only onward and upward. We're seeing increased consumption every year on a per person basis in the United States. And that trend has been going for about 8 to 9 years now. So unlike some of the other agricultural products that are seeing declining consumption like milk, we're actually going the other way. People are eating more eggs per year now than what they had in the past.
Yeah, I know in my household, it's usually probably 3 dozen a week, that we're going through.
Yeah.
So another question that we have here from Jebediah is, do souders have any responsibility for ensuring protection against a disease like the avian flu, or is that mostly the farmer's responsibility?
No, we definitely do. Our trucks are going on and off the farms. So we have to make sure that we're sanitizing our equipment. If there is something going on from avian influenza in the area, we have heightened protocols where our drivers will wear suits and then dispose of them on the farm. They'll do additional disinfectings in and out of the truck. We'll disinfect the inside of the truck in between farms. Things that we don't necessarily do every day, but that we kind of have different levels depending on kind of think of it as threat levels. We have a normal operating practice, and then we have a couple of increased levels if there's some form of disease in the area. So yeah, absolutely, we play a key role in that, and as well as getting information to our farmers and letting them understand how the disease travels, whether it's from a fomite or whatnot. So we absolutely are very active on that side.
And another question that we have here, Mark, from Melissa is, what is the time frame regarding when the eggs leave the farm to when they get to the store shelves?
So we're typically picking up eggs that we're going to process within the next 24 to 48 hours. So you're looking at, in most situations, probably 72 hours from the time we pick up the eggs at the farm until they're being delivered to a grocery store, or at least the warehouse that services those grocery stores. Certain customers we deliver to warehouses, and then they handle delivery direct to their own stores. But we're typically delivering product within about 72 hours. That does change around the holidays when we'll build some inventory ahead of time and some of those things. But that's pretty standard. It's in and out. The chickens don't take vacations, so we gotta keep them moving.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm sure some farmers would hope that they would take at least a vacation, maybe once every 2 or 3 years.
I tell you, if I could figure out how to put chickens on vacation, we could be all right.
Yeah, another question here, Mark, is what are the biggest differences between the eggs that are produced in sort of the Souders line of production in comparison to what we saw on the video at the Millport facility, where they're direct marketing right from there? Can you speak to what some of the differences are?
Well, I'd say some of the biggest differences are that we have, and I don't know that operation well, so I don't want to, speak directly to what they do or don't do. But a lot of smaller farms in general don't have the wherewithal to do a lot of the testing that we do. So we verify when we buy baby chicks that they're salmonella free. We do multiple testings in the pullet barns the whole way through until they're removed from the layer barn at end of life. So I think it probably comes down to the testing and the auditing that we do is pretty extensive. The other thing to consider is we're required by law to wash and sanitize our eggs, and not all roadside stands do that. Now, obviously, there's some other operators out there that will, but in general, if you're stopping at a cooler on the side of the road, those eggs probably haven't been washed and probably haven't been sanitized. So definitely handle them with a little more care so you don't get E. coli or something from the shell of the egg spread around your kitchen.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Those QA, QC elements, that are sort of just inherent, certainly direct from the farm or probably not
Sure.
factored into at the level. So,
yeah.
Another question that we have here is there any major nutritional differences between brown and white eggs?
There is zero nutritional difference between brown and white eggs, assuming you feed the chicken the same feed. So nutrition really comes from the feed. And so I can create different nutritions inside of eggs by altering feed that we give the bird. But if you feed them the same feed, there's no difference.
Yeah. Mark, I previously, and we just have another minute or so here, but I asked about greatest opportunities. What do you think are the greatest threat, or what's the greatest challenge over the next, 10 to 15 years?
I think it's really pressure from the animal rights groups that are trying to increase the cost of protein. And they're doing it by initiating state ballots and using state legislature processes to change laws on a state by state basis. So just for an example, Massachusetts, starting in January of next year, is going to have its own set of rules on how eggs must be produced in order to be sold or consumed or produced in the state of Massachusetts. And those laws are going to be different than New York, which doesn't have any specific laws, or Pennsylvania, other than your standard FDA or USDA guidelines. So as these different states roll out different guidelines, it's creating a logistical issue, honestly, because we sell eggs to a large grocery store chain that'll have 7 stores in the state of Massachusetts, but then has stores in Connecticut and Rhode Island and New York. And so how do you manage that supply chain and create separate items? And I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And that's really all coming from animal rights groups who are falsely depicting what we do as farmers, quite honestly.
Sure. Yeah. Well, great, Mark. I'm not seeing any more questions, and I think we're at time here. So again, really want to thank you for your willingness to participate with Lancaster Farmland Trust on this webinar.
Absolutely.
Connecting us with some of your farmers and allowing, our supporters in the community to peek behind the curtain a little bit when it comes to egg production and what happens in Souders. I mean, I think probably many people drive up through Lidditz and see your facilities there and probably go, I wonder what goes on in there. Now they have the opportunity to see behind the curtain there a little bit. So again, really want to appreciate and thank you for your time and effort and your continued support of Lancaster Farmland Trust mission. We're extremely grateful for that as well. Before we close out here, for the audience, if you enjoyed today's webinar, please sign up for our monthly newsletter, which will have ongoing communication about future opportunities. You can find the form on our website, which is lancasterfarmlandtrust.org. If you're an existing donor contributor to Lancaster Farmland Trust, thank you for your support. We wouldn't be able to advance our mission, preserving the beautiful, productive farmland of Lancaster County without your support. If you're currently not a supporter, would hope you would consider that. There's a really quick, easy link on our website, nice big donate button. All you got to do is just click on it. And we'd be, extremely grateful for that support. Our next webinar, titled Cleaner Streams with Cows, will premiere on April 28th at noon. also followed by a live Q&A. So again, thanks for your participation. Hope everyone who tuned in is doing well and staying healthy, and we hope to see you at our next webinar on April 28th. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.